Hello viewers, today I'm going to talk to you about airlines and airplanes and whatever to do with aviation really. Now, over the past few weeks we've been dealing with the disappearance of Flight 370, Malaysia Flight 370, that disappeared somewhere in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Australia. Perth, Australia, off the coast of Perth, Australia. And they're still looking for it. They still haven't found the wreckage or the black boxes yet. They've seen objects from satellites, they've seen blah blah blah, but they still haven't actually found found the wreckage yet. So what do we need to do with aviation? What do we need to do in the future to protect it? Well, what happened during the flight is that the transponder somehow got turned off. Now, this could have been an act of terrorism or an act of suicide by the pilots, but if it was an act of suicide, then wouldn't he just drive the plane straight into the ground when they took off, rather than flying and waiting till they hit the ocean? I mean, come on. What else is very puzzling is that when they were going down, they picked up pings, which are, the radar bouncing back and forth. They picked up a half ping, so this either symbolizes that they hit the water or they landed, but most likely they hit the water and broke up. Because there's no way they could have, well, I'm not saying they couldn't have, but there probably was a very low chance that they landed the plane. They still don't know what brought down the plane today, obviously, because they haven't found anything of it. But speculation and theories include, well, of course, terrorism is an obvious one, pilot error, computer error, lack of plane maintenance, something along the lines of that. But there is a resounding fact that air travel is the safest form of travel in the world. You're more likely to get in a car accident than you are to be involved in a plane crash. Because pilots nowadays are flying a plane for 4 to 5 minutes. Takeoff and landing. The rest is autopilot. You just monitor the cockpit, you just sit back, relax, monitor the cockpit, look at the instruments, see if everything's working properly. That's all you really do. The only time you have to take control is takeoff and landing. Computers do most of the hard work anyway. They do all the complex math, they do everything much faster than humans can. And what does come of our aviation? What can come of it anyway? What has come of it? Well, of course we can, I mean, still, it's going to take 14 hours from us to get to Canada to China, 14-hour flight, but still, it's much faster than taking a boat, and it taking maybe a few days to a week. Eventually we'll have planes that can cut that time down, not by half, but by more than half. Planes will be going fast enough that we can get to China in 4 hours. 14-hour flight does not sound pleasant. I don't think I've been on a flight that long before in my life. Thank God. Because that does not, and I repeat, does not sound fun whatsoever. But Malaysia and China aren't really that far away, so it was about a 2-3 hour flight. So routine, I guess. It was a routine flight. But, of course, it didn't make it. It went down somewhere. Most plane accidents, of course, or pretty much all of them have been solved, at least at some point. There's some sort of catalyst, something that brings down the plane. But in the case of the Hudson River accident, everyone survived because he was smart enough to land it on the river. But but in this case, they're saying that there is possibly 500 pounds of lithium on board, lithium batteries. Now, we know what lithium batteries are. They run our iPhones, they run our computers, and they say that passengers leaving them on has actually burst their electronics into flames. The heat generated is so much that they can melt through the wing, the aluminum and titanium of a plane. Wow, that's a lot of heat generated. So if anything, they're saying that that could have brought down the plane. I don't think it did, but it could have. So I guess we have to blame Bolivia for this now. They're selling us defunct lithium batteries. That's funny. What else do we really know? Air travel has really not been around for very long. It's been there since the 30s, 1930s, yeah, about there. And when jets became widestream, it was probably the 70s, maybe late 60s when everybody was using jets. And then by the end of the 70s, or at least late 70s, the Boeing 737 came, and that's still the workhorse pretty much of the airline industry to this day. Airbus and Boeing, I would say. So humans have only achieved flight for 101 years. Yeah, 101 years. That's really not that long, considering birds have been on this planet for so much longer. But that's fine, isn't it? That's absolutely fine. So planes, what do we have to really worry about when we get into plane? Most people don't think, oh, it's gonna crash. There's a terrorist on board. Oh no. Most people, when you sit into a plane, you try and relax, get used to the sound of the engines, and just kind of ride with it and go and think about the nice destination you're gonna land in. That's what most people do. Now, if you're the type who's paranoid, well then, happy flying to you. But for most people, we tend to relax on a plane and maybe sleep, eat, whatever else. But a plane is only a plane, after all. It's not indestructible, it's not. It can be destroyed. It has weak points. All the fuel is located in the fuselage, which is basically by the wings and the area. So if you're sitting there and the plane goes down, I don't think you have a good chance of living. The best place to sit in a plane to survive is probably the tail. Because if you've noticed during crashes, if it hits the ground, the tail usually breaks away from the flames and the wreckage. So much force is generated, the tail just spins away when the plane impacts the ground and it rolls away. Sure, of course, you'll probably have a concussion, be dizzy, disoriented, maybe some broken limbs, but you'll still be alive, won't you? Rather than those poor people that don't die from impact. I'd rather die from impact than those people that get stuck and die because of the carbon dioxide, or they just burn to death. That would suck too. Of course, we can't always sit in the back of the plane, can we? But there also is that aspect of pilot error too, because some I'm not saying all pilots are bad, but there are some pilots that get too complacent or they're too too highly strung. They're too macho in a sense. They rely on their instruments way too much. Rather than doing real flying, rather than doing, of course, not I'm not saying real flying, rather than doing the flying they're supposed to be doing, they decide to kind of do their own thing and blah blah blah, not pay attention to the instruments, and the next thing you know, oh, warning, 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 warning. What do we do? What do we do? But there's also some things in airplanes that can't be controlled, such as weather, Mother Nature. But it can be avoided, of course. Weather can be avoided. Weather can be avoided. It's really not that bad. Well, of course we can't control Mother Nature when flying. I mean, we try to, but we really can't. So, anything of thunder hitting the jet and blah blah blah, sending it down, hitting an engine, or even volcanic ash clogging up the engines. That's quite horrific too. Or even bees making homes in the engines while they're not being properly covered, or birds flying through, getting chopped up, engine stopping then. There's a lot that could go wrong. There really is. But most of the time, most of those things don't happen. Most of the time. So 90% of the time, 95% of the time. But if you happen to be in that 5%, well, didn't you beat the odds, but not in a good way either. You didn't beat the lottery odds, you beat them. You won the death lottery, that's what happened. Now, most people, when boarding, or okay, let's say not boarding. Well, then don't forget, there's always the airport. When you're sitting out there waiting, your bags, you have your family, whatever else, you guys are kind of excited, see all the planes taking off and landing. That is such a stressful job to be a controller. You have to be completely precise, completely dynamic, completely in sync. You can't be doing anything else. You have to be paying attention to all those screens, directing those flights to their proper altitude, keeping them away from each other, blah blah. Because one wrong mistake, you could lead to the death of 400 people, 300 people, easily. By turning one plane the wrong direction even slightly could lead to the death, or even the loss of a plane. That could lead to hundreds of millions of dollars lost for the company, and lawsuits and whatever else that comes with it. It can even lead to a company being ended just by you making a simple mistake. Not even a stupid mistake. So that's why controllers probably have the toughest job. They do have the toughest job in all of airport. And then there's the baggage handlers, baggage carriers. Those are people that load your baggage on the airplanes, whatever else. They try not to throw it in there. Trying not to destroy anything, trying not to break anything fragile, trying not to do any of that. But, I'm not saying it does happen, but it has happened and it can happen. Bags can't always be treated by the daintiest of hands, can they? They have to get this stuff done, so they throw it in there. They have to get it done, just put it in there. Just woof, woof, woof. Quickly, get it over with, get it over with. Because this flight has to get off the ground. Because the more time they wait, the more fuel they're wasting, the more money it's costing the airline, so they need to get in the air. That's what basically needs to happen. So remember this, viewers, when you're flying, try to sit in the tail, just in case you're the lucky 5%. So thanks for watching.